Hey guys, very interesting position for you today. It's the two rooks against the queen and the pawn. The pawn is going down the board in this direction. It's white to play and not lose. So somehow you can find a draw, but there's only one correct move, and it's not an easy move to find for white. Before I say too much, if you would like to pause, try to figure out what's the move that white needs to play to save the game. All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, let's actually talk a little bit about what's going on here. So, two rooks against the queen is not usually so bad, except in this case, there's one thing that's really going against white, and it's the fact that the king is stuck in the corner. Not only is it stuck in the corner, black's king is right there, and the queen is in a very good spot. And on top of that, you have the pawn, which actually does a nice job of defending the king from any types of checks from the rook along the f file. So all of these things are heavily weighted in black's favor to be able to win this game. And that's why it's so incredible that you can actually get a draw with white. Now, when I first looked at this position, I was thinking about moves like maybe bringing my rook down, trying to create some sort of fortress where everything is just defended. And you even have this checkmate threat here. If the queen ever moves away somewhere, you could just win the game. The problem with this is that black's going to simply play the move queen to f3. And when they pin this rook, they put white in Zugzwang, where we can't move our rook because it's pinned. We can't move our king because it's stuck. The only thing we can move is this rook here, but anywhere that we move it to simply leads to a checkmate. Okay, so that's the problem if you said rook to h2. And this one might be a little bit of a better try, going to g8 to defend the rook that way. But again, black has some options, and primarily what they would probably do would be something like queen to h6 check. Okay, we have to block that. Rook to h2. And then they could go queen to c6 check. And again, we have to block. And of course, we have to block this way, because if we block with the wrong rook, we run into the same issue where they just move the queen. And this is the exact same position that we saw before where we could checkmate it. Okay, so we would have to block, like I said, with this one. But now black's probably just going to start pushing this pawn down the board. And they're slowly but surely going to create more and more threats as the pawn gets closer. And it's really just too much for us to handle. Okay, so it's a nice idea, but it doesn't quite work. And then the other thing that maybe some of you would have thought about is, well, what if we bring our rook way over here, trying to come down for like a checkmate on from this direction? But again, black has some very nice responses, primarily queen to h3 check, then queen to f3 check, and then simply checkmate on g2. Okay, so we have a lot of issues here that we have to deal with. That's why this is such a difficult puzzle. So now that we've looked at all the moves that don't work, here is the only move that draws the game. Rook to h4. Rook to h4. Now, when you first look at this move, it's like, okay, I don't really notice anything special about this move. Why are we going to h4? Well, we're actually setting up a trap for black, but it's trap that they can't avoid, essentially. Okay, so what are some of the most obvious moves here for black? Probably one of the most obvious would be queen to f3. And black is basically saying, look, I'm pinning this rook again, so you can't move it. You can't move your king because it's just checkmate. You have to defend it with your rook. But if you go here, I'm going to be taking it. And if you go here, well, you've seen that position before. Once you line up here, you're in big trouble. The queen just moves, and then you got to move away, and you get checkmated. So you're probably thinking, okay, that looks pretty good for black. What do we do? What do we do? White to play and save the game. Got a chance to look at that. The solution is rook to f4. And this, my friends, was the idea behind going to h4. This was the trap that I was talking about. Rook to f4 obviously is pinning the queen, so the queen can't move anymore. We're going to take the queen, unless, of course, the queen takes us. But that just sets up the follow-up. White to play and save the game. What's the move? You had a chance to look at that. It's rook to f2 check. Now we just had a pin, and now we have a fork. And it doesn't matter how black takes us. This is a stalemate. Even if they take with the king, this is also a stalemate. We can't move, but we're not in check, so we don't lose. We get a draw, and that's exactly what we were trying to do. So there was a stalemate trap, essentially, after rook to h4 if black tried to go for that idea of pinning our rook. Okay, so essentially what we did was we stopped this idea of pinning our rook in a very clever way. Now, some of you are probably thinking, okay, but black has any number of moves that they could play. They don't have to play queen f3. What if they play, let's just say, pushing the pawn forward? Well, again, we have a very nice trick here to save the game if you would like to pause. You get a chance to look at that. It's the same idea as before. We just grab the pawn, right? Check. Because when the queen takes us, it's the same exact position, except the pawn is there, but it doesn't really matter. We just go for the stalemate. Same thing, right? Very, very nice idea. And I guess there are some other moves that black could try, like king to e1 to get away from, the little trick there. But the problem with king to e1 is that it opens up the g1 square for us. And so we could just play something like rook b4. And whenever black tries to go for these checks over here, it's no longer dangerous for us for two reasons. Number one, our king can move to g1. But also, remember before black's king was attacking our rook, which was kind of a big part of the problem. So if the king ever moves away like that, we can simply just sidestep, and then we're just going to get some sort of perpetual check. And you could play around with it if you would like. There are other moves that the queen could try, but really there's nothing else that they can do. Let's just choose one more random one just to see what happens. Let me just choose this one. Let's say they just move the queen somewhere to the center. We can actually, probably the easiest thing, in this case, we could just go rook f4 check again. So yeah, that same idea exists in so many different positions. That's probably the easiest one. So anyway, that's the idea. Go here, set up the double rook sacrifice for the stalemate trap. Super fun idea, and probably not one that I would see in a game. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.